Okay, so they send you into a classroom. Like myself, I was a brand new emergency credential teacher when I started. I didn't speak Spanish. I got an entire classroom of Spanish speaking students. The only thing I knew how to say was hola, me llamo Miss Arsenian. And that
That
was
was the day when we needed warm bodies to fill
yes.
class because
Mhm.
we had shortages. Yes.
That's right. And so I had no idea there were no actual quality Spanish reading series. So we were using an old one. The English reading series was 7 years old, and this district wasn't thinking about buying a new one. And we didn't have all the pieces to it. Math series would roll out. I had no idea. I didn't even have a math teacher's guide for the first year. I just had to wing it. And lucky for me, I surrounded myself with really great teachers. And that was always great about Hoover. We always had a wonderful core of teachers that were like mentors, but not being paid for it, but just wanted to help the new teacher get along. So on one side of me, I had a teacher who would help me with Spanish reading and English reading and building social studies, and another teacher who would take me with her to Math Their Way and teach me how to teach math in a hands-on approach. We just worked at it. Like they told me what to teach. They would help me. We would build our own reading. When you don't have a reading book, what are you supposed to practice with? So for me, the idea of them sending us into schools with little to no instruction on how to use the materials. Yes, during student teaching, you do write lesson plans. I know how to make a good 7-step plan, but I don't know what to teach. And then they give me a giant binder called the X107 with all these standards. And one of the standards was to hammer nails into wood. I was like, I'm not giving anybody a hammer in this room. And then just crazy things like that, you know? And so I think the changes have come by the Common Core. I know a lot of people don't like it, but myself as a teacher who saw the old system and now looks at Common Core standards, I think they're the greatest. They're so beautiful. They're laid out, they're clean, they're concise. You know exactly what you're supposed to be teaching. It's just very easy. And I'm not mixing social emotional with academics. The old standards would mix social emotional in. I need to keep those separate. I need to know what does my child need to know, and then I'll work on how to have that happen in my classroom environment and the culture of my classroom. That's another thing they don't do. They don't send us to any kind of classroom management. So if you don't know how to control your classroom, then you're not actually teaching. You're just putting out hotspots all day. So that's a key one.
So taking the politics out of Common Core, I agree with you. Is what you're saying that the value is in defining the level of expectation with clarity.
Yes.
That is not dependent on the neighborhood where you have.
There's nowhere in the standard where it talks about where do you live. They're all the same. It's for the children in the state of California who are 5 years old. These are for the 6-year-olds. This is for second grade. It's very clean and concise, and they spiral. But in a school system, there isn't time given for teachers to interact with each other. So therefore, we don't get to plan together. And many times teachers, like on my kindergarten level, we had one teacher who kept saying, why aren't we all just planning together? We're all teaching the same unit, and then we could do the same homework, and then we wouldn't get the complaints from parents. And a lot of people balked at that. They didn't like it. So, and those, you know, and for a long time, it was acceptable to have a teacher say, I don't want to participate in the school plan. I don't have to. And that's a weird thing to say, but people do that. When we change that system, that culture, and we make it more of a group culture of us working together, and then we do articulation with the other grades. Like we talk to TK and ETK and find out and they find out what do we need coming into K. And then we talk to first grade and they tell us what they're looking for. And when you hear those things, they wanted little things like, can you stop having them say I? Sure. What do you want? Can you use pronouns too? Of course we can. So then we started moving towards a different writing system. And so little things like that, when you communicate across the grade levels, you get a much better scope and sequence of how that child's going to spiral. And then you also are able to start your year with your course of study instead of going back and finishing somebody else's course of study. That's a hard one. You know, I only have 180 days. So I need to just work on my standards. I can't be working on somebody else's.